So good morning, everybody. We're close to 60 people so far, and I want to keep to as much of the time as possible. So thank you all so much for joining us for this town hall. I'd also like to thank our panelists for taking the time out of your morning to answer several questions that we got from the El Paso business community. I want to give the floor over to Commissioner Aaron Demerson. Commissioner Demerson currently serves as the commissioner representing employers for the Texas Workforce Commission. Governor Greg Abbott appointed him to the 3-member commission in 2019. Prior to his appointment, Mr. Demerson served as the director of the Office of Employer Initiatives at TWC. He's got several folks with him on the panel this morning. Tommy Simmons, senior legal counsel to Commissioner Demerson. Melissa Chapa, also legal counsel to Commissioner Demerson. Elsa Ramos, also a legal counsel, she might be joining us a little later. And then Kelly Leanne from the governor's office, director of economic and development and tourism division. So we've got several folks available this morning to answer any questions, but I'll give the floor over to you, Commissioner. Thank you for your time, and we look forward to speaking with you.
All right, good. Thanks, Layla. Thanks so much for the introduction. And am I coming across okay, clear?
Yes, you're good.
Good. All right, we're going to get started. But thank you so much for holding this call and for your invitation, our invitation to participate as well. You can't see me right now. Something's happening with my web camera, but you hear me. So we appreciate the continued dedication and leadership that your team's providing. I saw Bill has joined us on the line as well. And so, Bill, nice to see you. Good morning to you guys. And just a real strong admiration for what you guys are doing in El Paso. If you could see me, I would be holding an El Paso Strong banner that actually was sent to me by the mayor when Governor Abbott appointed me to this position. So my best to Mayor Margot in that regards. But El Paso Strong is something that was sent to me. I keep that proudly in my office as well. And so Borderplex, Workforce Solutions, and Lila are the boots on the ground for your area. All those that are on the call, those are the folks that you want to know, you want to get to know for anything that you need in regards to employment situations in that particular region. And so, Layla, congratulations on your announcement, and you know that you have our full support in what you're doing. These are pretty interesting times. We've some companies are experiencing hiring even in these times, and a lot are experiencing layoffs as well. In that regard, that team on the ground, they're very important to all the folks that are on this call. Let me just say on behalf of Governor Abbott and myself, thanks to all of those folks that have joined us on this call. Thank you for your leadership, those businesses for your investment in our state. We don't take that for granted. We appreciate all the investment that's been made because you guys are the ones that are hiring our Texans, and we don't take that for granted at all. Any elected leadership that's on the phone, we appreciate all that you guys are doing, especially in these times that we're experiencing today. But you guys have always worked strong, and you simply have taken care of business, and we appreciate that. As Layla had mentioned, I was appointed to this position in August of 2019, and I have the honor and privilege of serving the Texas employers. And we're going to make sure that we're responsive always, especially in the times that we're facing right now. And it's been mentioned that I have 4 dynamic attorneys on board. Tommy Simmons, who's with me here in the office, we're practicing social safe distancing, and also Elsa Ramos, who have joined us on the call. Mario Hernandez is actually answering calls. And then Melissa Chapa, who is going to join us, but Melissa is actually on another call with the folks in the greater Houston area as well. And so we're continuing to serve Texas employers by answering questions that individuals have day in and day out. These guys have been answering with real live relevant answers for the past 4 weeks now. And it's been quite phenomenal, but we've been making sure that we're addressing questions that our Texas employers have in big ways. We shared with Layla our latest employer resource guide. That's going to be shared out as well to the participants on this call, and it'll be made available to Layla and her team. And it's a frequently asked question document, an employer resource document that really gives you real good information on who to go to, where to turn next in regards to some of the questions if we don't get to some of the questions today. So I want to briefly highlight some of the things that the governor's been working on. Also, we have the governor's office on the phone, and we'll allow them to have some remarks as well. But quickly, Governor Abbott waived the 1 week, the waiting period for unemployment benefits. We did that right away, took care of business. In the past, there was a 1-week waiting period, but that's been waived. In addition, here at TWC, we waived the search requirement, and that was followed up with a number of other initiatives that we have going on to make sure that we were able initiatives that we address the situation that was at hand with us. Right now, it was a hesitant number of calls over the past 2 or 3 weeks, and it's been phenomenal. Our system was not set up to receive that type of input, but has to make sure that they're taking care of business. And so a number of initiatives that we've put in place. We're hiring more people to field calls, expanding more traffic on the website through our DIR and more. Created a chat box as well to field virtual questions on the website. We've increased our hours 7 days a week, 7 to 7, and just doing whatever we can to make a difference in that regard. We had 4 existing call centers in Texas. We have brought on an additional 3, and here we're bringing on 1 more, so an additional 4th, so that we're in a position to answer those calls and to file those claims, so that we can make sure that our Texas citizens are taken care of. Know this for sure, that at the end of the day, every question will be answered, and we'll make sure that we're getting every claim that's filed will be addressed in that regard. So we're going to make sure that we're taking care of business that way. I want to quickly pivot and allow either Adriana or Kelly to bring remarks from the governor's office, and then we'll get to our Q&A and start firing away. And so, Kelly, I think Adriana was trying to join us. Adriana is the executive director of the Economic Development and Tourism Division, recently appointed by Governor Abbott to that position. But I want to turn it over to Kelly if Adriana is not on the line.
Okay, well, this is Kelly Spillane. I'm the small business advocate at the Office of the Governor, and if Adriana does join us, please interrupt me. I would like to thank Commissioner Demerson and the TWC for including me in this call. I would also like to thank Leila Melendez and the Borderplex for also hosting the call. I am the small business advocate, and I'm here to answer any questions that relate to funding or small business issues that are not to do with employment. And I would just like to say I'm honored to be here, and I do my job with passion and commitment, and I bring a lot of experience, and I'm delighted to be here. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us, Kelly, as well. And so with that, we would turn it back over to you guys if you're going to have someone find the questions. If they don't ask the questions, then I'll ask the questions and have the team to address those.
Okay, great. We've got Valeria Contreras in my office who is going through the questions that are being submitted. And you talked about this a little bit, but I think I'll hand it over to Valeria so she can scroll through the questions on behalf of the panelists and our board members.
Okay.
Good morning. Hi, this is Valeria. The first question is, we know there is a tremendous volume coming into the UI call center and the website. Can you start off by describing what TWC is doing to handle the volume of claims and extending the capacity of the website and the call center?
Good. And thank you for that question. And I'll kind of touch on it just a little bit, and I'll just kind of reiterate. We've also hiring a lot more people to field phone calls, expanded the ability on the website. We've increased our hours. We've increased the amount of days, Saturday, Sunday. We're working 7 days a week in regard, and brought on additional 4 other call centers in addition to the 4 that we already have existing. And so those are our answers to the questions. We had an unprecedented amount of phone calls. There were, I think, the highest number of calls we've ever received were 60,000 calls. In one day, I think we had over 1.5 million or 7 calls coming in. And so it was just one of those situations that no one could have seen, and we're addressing it fastly, though. And so we're taking care of business. I think this past week has been reported out for 200,000 claims that have been addressed, and money's been mailed out, over $1 million. I think that's gone out, and so checks are being sent out, and we're responding in big ways to make a difference, so that individuals are not being put on hold and not able to get through from that standpoint. But those are some of the things that we've done at the agency to try to make a difference, and we're not resting, sitting back. We're continuing to take any input or any suggestions that anyone has, but the team's moving fast to make sure that we're taking care of business.
Great. So Our next question is from one of our board members, Mr. Bill Kuhn, who's the president, CEO of the YMCA. And the question, there's two questions. It's how far behind is TWC on issuing checks to those who have applied? If you'd like to answer that question first, and then I'll say the second question.
Yeah, as I mentioned, checks are going out. And so last week, on Monday, it was reported that a number of checks had gone out, a number of claims that have been filed. So things are in motion and things are moving, and folks are receiving funds. And so that we're in the system as they're coming through, they're being processed, and checks are going out and money's being received. And there's also components of it on the other side, the federal level, that may kick in as well. And some of the attorneys may address some of those situations. But things are moving. Things are moving pretty fast. And so $140 million were paid out just last week, as a matter of fact.
Awesome. And so the following question is, when a company receives the PPP loans and brings staff back on payroll, how long will it take TWC to cut off those benefits to those employees? Will this cause an undue circumstance for those employees if they are getting some payroll and also getting some unemployment benefits? Would they have to pay back that unemployment benefit?
Hi, this is Tommy Simmons, and I can answer that one. Claimants are under very clear instructions to report all work and earnings while they're in claim status. So if they file a claim and report their work and earnings, their benefits would definitely be affected by the amount of earnings they have. If it's above 125% of their weekly benefit amount, they would not be eligible for any partial unemployment benefits. If they fail to report work and earnings, that would have to be investigated. That could cause serious disruption for their claim filing ability. If it's done with intent to conceal the work and earnings, that would actually be the most serious kind of claim issue, which is fraud. But hopefully nothing will come to that.
Great. And then we have another question from Grace Munoz, who's also a board member. She's the Senior Vice President of Talent Management at First Light Federal Credit Union. Will the stimulus checks have an impact on eligibility requirements for unemployment insurance?
They'll have a little bit of an impact from the standpoint of more people will be eligible for unemployment insurance than traditionally qualify, because an important part of the stimulus package, the CARES Act, is Section 2102, which allows pandemic unemployment assistance for people who are independent contractors, sole proprietors, or others who do not normally qualify for regular unemployment benefits. So from that standpoint, that would definitely affect the eligibility. As far as other individuals who qualify for traditional, normal UI benefits, the CARES Act will actually add an additional $600 per week for every valid weekly claim that they file. And so there is definitely a noticeable effect there.
Okay. We have another question from Mr. Armando Lagos. I used the mass claims program to help out our employees that were laid off. Are these claims handled differently than individual claims?
Yes, they are. They are handled through a special unit within our unemployment. And what they do is they work with the employer, the mass claims staff work with the employer before the layoff occurs. The instructions on the mass claims page say try to conclude the mass claim at least 5 days before the layoff occurs. That way, the claim filings can be coordinated and simplified for all of the affected employees. But basically, the decisions on all of the claims would be standardized. Presumably, they're part of a mass claim filing because they are all similarly situated. They're all, for example, being laid off at a certain time due to something associated with the pandemic. And chargeback protection would apply. Any work separation that is the result of a pandemic-related circumstance is resulting in chargeback protection for taxed employers.
Thank you. And then we have another question from Ms. Munoz. The question is, can you talk about the subsidized childcare for essential employees, employees covered under the Families First Coronavirus Response Act for up to 12 weeks will get 2/3 pay to stay home and care for their children due to school daycare closure. Can you talk a little bit about that and if the childcare eligibility requirements were modified for individuals laid off but seeking employment?
Yeah. Let me ask if Elsa's on the line. Elsa, are you there? And if Elsa's not, then I'll go ahead with Tommy. Go ahead.
Yes, our child care division, headed by Reagan Miller, has put out several really good informational pieces on the child care section of our website regarding subsidies and child care arrangements, especially for the first responders. And TWC is doing everything possible to make sure that first responders have access to subsidized child care. Even with all the closures, alternative arrangements are being made. And the FFCRA requirement may apply, but child care is also working with the FFCRA requirements to make sure that the child care costs are covered. So full details would be in the child care section of our website. And if anybody has trouble finding that, you can send me an email at Tommy, Tommy, .Simmons, Simmons, at twc.state.tx.us, and just describe that you're looking for information on the child care subsidies and so on. And I will send you a link to that section of the website where you can find the answer.
Thank you. The next question is from Ms. Natalie Littlefield, who's the VP of Strategy at the Borderplex Alliance. Is PwC open to making their OEI grants more flexible to allow funds to be used for the hospitality industry or other industries that have been hard by COVID-19?
I'm afraid I didn't catch all of that. There was a little bit of static midway through, and I was lost some essential words out of that. Would you mind rephrasing the question?
Yes, of course. Is TwC open to making their OEI grants more flexible to allow funds to be used for the hospitality industry or other industries that have been hit hard by COVID-19?
Yeah, I think that's a question that our Office of Employer Initiatives, if I'm not mistaken, Dale Robertson may be on the line, but he may be muted. Dale, are you muted or on the line? And if Dale is muted, I'll go ahead and answer that. I know we're looking at different ways to do different things. We just had a commission meeting on yesterday, and we took action on a lot of the funds that we have within the agency, and we're pivoting to make sure that we're in a position to address the current situation. And so I think that's a conversation that that is raised here. I'll be in a position to raise that or share that with our executive director, that there's some interest there. And again, I think we're being flexible. We're being in a position where we're addressing the current situations. And so if there's a need and a desire there, and that's coming locally, then at our level, we should be taking a look at that and then providing you with a response based on facts.
Great. I do see that Mr. Dale Robertson is on the line. I'm going to go ahead and unmute you and to provide a little more follow-up information. Dale, the floor is yours.
Okay, good morning. Dale Robertson here. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. So yes, Dale Robertson, Interim Director of the Office of Employer Initiatives at TwC. And as Commissioner Demerson mentioned, we presented a number of options to the commissioners yesterday, includes flexibility with some of the funds that the OEI has, specifically the Skills Development Fund and our Skills for Small Business Funds, but other funds as well. And where our focus will be on particularly those businesses that are impacted by COVID-19 and those workers of those businesses. So workers who are, some of them are new workers, some of them have been furloughed or on reduced hours or have been laid off. The initiatives we will be discussing and rolling out that has been we'll be rolling out in a week or so. Once we get the application, we're coming up with a streamlined rolling application process. And so the streamline rolling out and hopefully colleges across the state will take advantage of this opportunity to workforce boards and community colleges across the state. We have on small businesses across the state that are colleges across impact at this point. The emphasis we have on more information on that very on small businesses coming out with more information on that very soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dale.
Would TWC be open to allowing more? Also, would TWC be open to allowing more, which would help disperse the?
So you want to Dale again to allow him to answer that question?
Of technical colleges. So currently, only the technical community, public community and technical colleges, including Texas Engineering Extension Service or TEEX, and local workforce development boards are eligible grantees on Development Skills Development Fund, which is one of our colleges. So currently, with the business authority, and so it's possible to partner with a non school for training as well, and that would allow the boards to do work or community college to do to partner with some entity that is not one of the statutorily required eligible grantees. Hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Dale. And I know Adriana is on the line or on the call as well. So if there's an opportunity to unmute Adriana Cruz, we'll do that as well. If we have the opportunity to do that. I'm not sure if it's coming up that way. Go ahead with the next question.
Yes. We have another question from Ms. Cindy Ramos-Davidson from the CEO of the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. She's wondering if there are any other options to talk to someone live, either on the phone or maybe fill out papers in person, and mail them to the TWC. And so she's wondering if there's more opportunity for interactions that are over the phone or not online for people who may be interested in that option.
Yeah, so online opportunities are there, but the addition of the 4 additional call centers are what's allowing us to have increased capacity for phone calls. There was a tremendous amount of folks that were getting busy signals, but the addition of those call centers should start reducing that, where folks are in a position to get live individuals that they're speaking with. And so we went from the 4 that we had stacked up to 3. Recently just added an additional 4th, and if we find out that that's not working, I'm quite sure at the staff level, Ed and his team will look to do what they need to do next to make sure that that folks are able to get through to talk to a live person.
Great, thank you. The next question is, does TWC offer any grants to businesses to help them open their doors again? Some examples are restaurant businesses, those that are most impacted by COVID-19.
Yeah, I'll let Kelly and Dale kind of speak to some of the loan programs. I know that we, as in the Office of Employers here, my office, we've had town hall conference calls with the Texas Restaurant Association, where a huge amount of their members were on the phone. Tommy has relations with them over the years, and so we're tied to the restaurant industry in a big way. Some of the programs that are out there, the PPP and the others, I'll let Dale and those guys kind of address that. And I see that Adriana has joined us as well. If we can unmute her, then she'll be in a position to weigh in as well. Adriana Cruz. Kelly, you want to weigh in until we unmute Adriana?
Yeah, sure.
Adriana.
Suppose the question is, constitute a support.
And so
again, so I'll just touch on the Small Business Administration to break on its feet again. So I'll just touch on the small PP. They loans and the PPP. They
and so with the business
had an economic injury that can help you cover overhead and accounts payable and so on. PP, if you want to retain your PPP if you want to retain your apply for them. You can apply for the idle loan if you can prove you have fund the supporting of staff and a high proportion overhead. And again, the PPP is best used. That loan is forgiven. Potential capacity has been increased, particularly in the people. Capacity has been increased, particularly in the sources. If anybody would like to more information about that, you can go through many different business pages. We have sources, business pages. We have sources. If I see Adriana is there, and I'm used to fund.
We're able to get in.
Thank you. Thank you. I was having some technical difficulties this morning. But thank you all for inviting me. I was saying, thank you. Thank you. Division in the office of Governor Abbott. And the primary businesses are through the Small Business Administration. Available for small businesses are through the Small Business Administration Development and Tourism Division in the Office of Government. That program also provides a
And a high
for one of the economic injury loans. You can request
$1.5 million or $7.
Not. So that is a way to get a quick infusion of capital. Or PPP is approved or not. So that is PPP is approved or not. So that is a way to get
and a high overhead
and several other community development finance institutions providing $50 million.
We're taking care of business. We're
small companies, loans to Texas small companies, or PPP is approved or not. So that is a way to get
and a high
so that's 25. Several other community development, 5 million of that 50 million. The remaining 25 available through other community 50 million. The remaining 25 list of those institutions you can go in finance institutions. And for a list of that's at gov.texas.gov. So that /business. There is a list of that is a way to get a relation to COVID-19 and the global health we're in right now. Translated in Spanish as well, COVID-19. Translated in Spanish as well, COVID-19. And a
high overhead.
You can also sign up, subscribe, email list for COVID-19 resources. This is a very fluid situation. COVID-19.
And before you hit the next question, I just wanted to point out that
information and sending that out to those.
Well, as does Dale with Mario Borders in that regard. And so, Adriana, if you want to speak, and then just a little bit of an introduction. We didn't get a chance to do that, but I want the regional person and just a little bit of an introduction. We didn't get a chance to particular position. She also has a person out in that region. Once everything gets back, you know, with your regional person as well. It's back.
Yes, thanks, Aaron. Months.
Person as well. It's back. You
up on our website that shows the different regions and the regional reps, and please do reach out to those individuals. You know, please do reach out to those individuals. We heard from earlier is our small business advocate, and we have a team in the office in Austin and in our regional offices that are ready to assist you.
And Dale has Mario Borders out there. I think you guys said
it's Commissioner. Thank you, Brianna. So what I'm have Muriel out, and to answer the question, what can we do for small Muriel out Our goal and that we'll identify with you all support the businesses. Our goal and
we heard from earlier is our small business advocate
and work with them to identify what training they need those to have in order to return to their work to another level. Take their work to another level. Again, for those individuals who are on reduced hours. So during this time frame, our goal is to use the skills funding and skills to pay for training. The goal is to use the use hours with them to identify what we're doing to assist businesses. And Merrill, being in a position locally, will be able to work with the educational partners locally to help identify businesses and their employees that may need additional training. Those businesses and their employees that may need additional.
So the next question is, it says, I am considered an essential employer, construction contractor. I have employees who are afraid to work closely with each other. I also can't find any PPE to buy and give them. If they don't want to work, can they file for unemployment?
Good. And Elsa, are you on the line yet? I know we're trying to get her linked in. And if not, Tommy will hit that question.
Okay, yeah, this is Tommy Simmons. And on something like this, it's a difficult question because normally if you're an essential contractor with an essential worker and they know they need to be at work, and you as an employer are able to furnish a safe workplace with all of the CDC recommended personal protective equipment, then there's no good reason why the employee should not be able to show up for work if they're not under some kind of a shelter-in-place order, or they're taking care of a close family member with COVID-19 or something like that. So normally somebody like that would be subject to potential disqualification. But if your business has close working conditions just as a reality at the workplace, and you're unable to furnish CDC recommended personal protective equipment such as masks and hand sanitizer and gloves and so on, then that person may actually have a claim if they quit or they're replaced because of their unavailability and they file an unemployment claim. They might actually be able to draw benefits. But in a situation like that, where it's clear that the work separation resulted from COVID-19 related circumstances, as long as that's what the evidence shows, then the employer's account will not be charged back with those benefits.
Thank you. The next question says, once the stay-at-home order is lifted and things get back to normal, what options will I have if my employees refuse to return to work and are still claiming benefits from my company? I'm offering them their job back. Would I be penalized if they are making that choice not to work?
And my answer on that, Tommy Simmons again, my answer on that would be if they refuse to return to work, despite safe working conditions, i.e. OSHA compliant workplace and CDC recommended precautions in place and all of that, if they don't come back, they would be subject to potential disqualification depending upon the exact facts going in each individual case. They would be subject to potential disqualification under the refusal to work provision in our law. Under the law, if a claimant refuses a offer of work, then they're subject to disqualification. And so if your company reports that to the TWC, it would be investigated. So now there's not going to be any chargeback no matter what to the employer's tax account. If it's a COVID-19 related layoff or work slowdown, then there's not going to be a chargeback. And if they make the choice not to return to work, they would be disqualified. And once again, no benefits would be chargeable to the employer's account. I hope that is responsive to the question.
Thank you. The next question says, are businesses required to pay more for people to be working through the pandemic? Something like hazard pay or any additional increase in wages that people may be asking for because of COVID-19?
No, that would be a matter of the wage agreement. That would be a matter of supply and demand. whatever it takes to fully staff a work shift. That's what the going rate for an employee would be, whatever it takes to get them to agree to be on the job, and that's a comfortable middle ground between the employer and the employee. So it'd be a matter of individual agreement between a company and its employees. That's not a requirement of the law.
Thank you. And the next question says, if I pay my contract employees with a 1099, am I going to be charged an unemployment tax for my contract employees that receive unemployment benefits?
The answer is no. Simply because you have independent contractors working for your company, they're basically vendors of services to your company, and you report their earnings to the IRS with a 1099. That fact by itself is not going to cause any charge to your company, because number one, any COVID-19 related unemployment claim is not going to be charged back to an employer's tax account. That's for regular employees. And number two, for the independent contractors, if they're getting the PUA benefits under Section 2102 of the CARES Act, those are fully federally funded, and they are not charged back to any individual employer's account.
Thank you. The next question says, can or should businesses terminate employment if employee is refusing to work with the public for fear or safety?
It would depend upon the availability of reasonable CDC recommended personal protective equipment. Once again, if the employer is complying with OSHA guidelines for a safe workplace and following CDC recommended precautions for minimizing the risk of exposure to COVID-19, and with masks and gloves if needed, hand sanitizer, and social distancing at work between employees and also employees and customers, if all of those reasonable precautions are being followed, then fear of working with the public by itself is probably not going to be a good enough reason for that employee to not come to work or to not do their job. So you would want to document the fact that the company is compliant with all of the CDC and OSHA guidelines, and that the employee has been given reasonable notice that their job depends upon doing their job, and make sure they understand the consequences for not doing their job. In a situation like that, the employee who refuses to do their job would be at risk of disqualification. Again, it would depend upon the individual facts.
This is Layla. Thank you, Tommy, for those responses. Really, some really great questions. And I want to just chime in here and just remind folks that are on the call, if they are viewing this from the computer and they'd like to submit any other questions, they can use the panel on the right-hand side to submit their questions on anything that hasn't been talked about. But I want to take this moment just to remind folks that we here at the Local Workforce Board, we have our website, that we have several different documents organized in a frequently asked question format. FAQ document for employees, an FAQ document for employers, and also quite a bit of information about the recent childcare availability for essential workers. So our website is borderplexjobs.com, and that's for our local workforce board. Folks can also call our hotline at 915-887-2600 if they have any questions, whether they're an employee or an employer, and we can route them to the appropriate person. This call itself is being recorded, and we will have an audio version of it available on our website by the end of the week, so that you can go back and refer to it if there was anything that you may have missed, or just go back for reference. So I want to just make sure that I mention that before I forget. There was a question that I wanted to ask. The question is there, and maybe this is something that the commission, the TWC agency is considering, but is there some ombudsman type person that can be connected to ask questions per the community on the status of a claim? So we at the Workforce Board have a call center, the number that I provided, and we're receiving a lot of calls from individuals. At first, it was calls about, getting through to file for unemployment. Now they have filed, they're waiting to get a response, or they are receiving benefits, but they have a question about the amount of the benefit, or they might want to dispute it, and they have to get back in line to speak to somebody. The question is, would there be a possibility of having somebody locally answering those questions for them, versus having to get back on the long line to the UI telecenter?
So Layla, good suggestion. And what I'll do is I'll visit with this is Aaron. I'll visit with Ed Cerna on that, and asking how we can work back either locally as well. So I think that's a good suggestion. And as I mentioned at the beginning, we're open to suggestions. And if it's something that can work, they're going to quickly put that into place. And if it's something that won't work, you'll know the reasons why not. But I think it's a good suggestion. We'll take it up. It may make all this in the world something that we haven't thought about. And then again, it may be something that we can't. But we're going to ask that question to find out if it works or not. Thanks for that suggestion.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I'll let Valeria ask. There was a question that came through on our Q&A. I'll let Valeria go ahead and ask that on behalf of the caller.
Thank you. Our next question is from Ms. Beatriz Gonzalez. Next, as an employer, is there a different phone number when responded to an unemployment claim that is posted on the notice of application for unemployment benefits?
Yeah, and I'm going to mention this, and then Tommy will jump in. I represent the employers here in the state, and my fellow commissioner, Julian Alvarez, represents the labor side, the employee side, and our chair, Brian Daniel, represents the public. So we have a hotline for the employers, and so we're addressing a lot of those questions, and also beginning to assist on the claimant side when we're receiving questions as well. But there's a separate number, the labor side, the employee side, as well. And so, Tom, you can hit some of those resources that are out there.
Yes, the employer hotline number, and this is for employers to call if they have questions about their rights or obligations as an employer, and that would be 800-832-9394. 800-832-9394. Claimants or job seekers or employees who have questions about their rights, they have just their own representative, Julian Alvarez, and he's the commissioner representing labor. His toll-free number is 800-832-2829. That's 800-832-2829. In addition, there is a general ombudsman office at the agency, and their toll-free number is 800-628-5115. That's 800-628-5115.
And Aaron, this is Adriana. As we're talking about contact information, just to give you contact information for our West Texas representative, her name is Chandra Eggemeyer, and her email I will put in the chat portion for contact information, so that if there's any companies that need to get a hold of the West Texas representative for the governor's office, you'll be able to do that. And again, that's Chandra Eggemeyer. I thought she might be on the call, but I don't believe that she is.
All right. Thanks so much, Adriana. And she may be on the call, just not being able to be unmuted. So
very true.
Okay.
And we will take all of the information that's submitted on the hotline numbers, the emails, and everybody that has called into this we've collected emails. So we will share that document with all the information captured in here with all of the attendees. So we've had over 85 people listen in on this call. So we'll be sure to respond to everybody and give them that update. There was one other question that I wanted to ask. How does an employer that furloughed their employees claim that they offered those jobs back to back once they're able to return? And how how can that employer make that clear that the jobs were offered back?
Yes.
Someone's typing in the background right now. They may want to mute their phone. So, okay.
All right. The way for an employer to do that would be to keep documentation of the job offer, make a clear, unambiguous offer for them to return to work, and make it clear that the job is still the same, the pay is still the same, the company benefits are still the same, the hours are still the same, whatever the terms and conditions of returning to work are, make that clear in the job offer, do it in writing, and usually cover 2 or more bases, i.e., if you text them, also follow that up with an email or a letter, or some employers actually do, or a personal courier. It is possible for the employer to ask for assistance, possible local workforce solutions center in order to relay a job offer to a specific claimant. And that's something that specific local workforce solutions offices have told me before they do as a service for employers in the past. And I'll let the Borderplex staff address that for their area. But the more documentation you have of that job offer, the better. And then if they still refuse to come back to work, then you will have some evidence to factor forward to the TWC to support the investigation into whether the claimant refused an offer of suitable work without good cause, which would be a serious issue.
Okay, thank you. And as you said, Tommy, you do have employers on the call. The local workforce solutions Borderplex office is here to assist you with those types of specific questions. So through our call center at 887-2600, we can put you in touch with a business services consultant who can speak with you directly about how to navigate and how to handle those issues. I don't know that we have any other questions. I'll ask Valeria if she's got any others, or Valeria, do we have any other questions?
And if no other questions, one comes, what I'll do, I don't see Elsa here, but I'd like to allow, maybe I'll hit Adriana and her team, Dale, to kind of have some closing comments here about anything that we've been hearing in other meetings that might be important to the folks in the El Paso region, and then Tommy to summarize as well. So Dale, I'll start with you, and then we'll move on to Adriana and her team, and then we'll finish up with the attorneys here. Dale?
Good morning, Leila. Thank you and your team, and all of you all there in the Borderplex region for having us on the call. As you've heard, your questions and your comments are very important to us. We are, again, rolling out new initiatives, and we will be announcing this today that will announcing more support for businesses across the state, including your region, for training their workers. We also will be rolling out a small business website at TWC, similar to what Adriana mentioned, because we realize some information that we have other organizations may not have. But together we can coordinate and collaborate, and collaborating with the governor's office, the Texas Department of Governor's office, the Texas Department of Agriculture, the Small Business Administration, in order to have another source of patients, the Small Business Administration. Us at any time, and we will respond as quickly as possible. I will be posting Waters information, and it will
full detail
this WebEx as well. Available on this WebEx as well. Those
shows definitely a partnership with the local workforce boards, with the Texas Workforce Commission, the Office of the Workforce Boards, with the Texas Workforce Commission, Office and the regional offices as well. For an unprecedented time, fluid guidelines are coming out, new programs are being developed, and our Texas small business owners as this of our Texas small business owners as this is, as I said before, an unprecedented with us. Please let us know what we can do to help. We're going to continue to information about programs as we can, as much information about programs as we can of our Texas small business owners as possible. This is, as I said before, an unprecedented the hands of our small businesses.
Thank you, Adriana. I think I might just add to all the great information that was shared. For any, thank you, Adriana. I'm wondering what to do. And thank you, Adriana. I think I might do an thank you, Adriana. I think I might just add to the SBA. I would urge them to. Wondering what to do. And thank you, Adriana. I think I might sources to the SBA. I would urge them to.
As I said before, an unprecedented time.
Our Small Business Development Center. There is, you would say, number. And so I would say, number is try to find and reach out to your small business development centers, communicate with your stakeholders.
Is
People you owe money to, communicate number. People you owe money to, communicate numbers to the SBA. I would urge them to and wish everybody the best.
For an unprecedented time.
Rihanna has put the information up and has read out our webpage. The address, I won't do that again, but we would love to hear from you. Thank you.
Good.
Industry or other industries that have been hard by COVID-19
is here to help. Adriana has put the information up and has read out our webpage. The best
board working with us. Please let us know what we can do.
Any final comments on your side? And Elsa Ramos was
put the information up and has read out our webpage. The best
the state is able to slowly transition back to around the state. It's very
has put the information up and has read out our webpage. The best
that might be helpful for those listening. And I'll share one quick story that might be site of the CDC, the cdc.gov website, and they clicked on the COVID-19 link by general fear, and what they did was they asked the employee, "Do you see anything on that we are not doing here at this? If so, let's talk about it." Point by point, and then back to work on. Employer asked the employee talk about it. Become reassured enough to commit to come back to work on. Employer asked the employee, "Do you see any slowly recover from this slowdown to the?" If so, let's talk about it. Out there, let employers out there let assured enough to commit to come back to work on. Employer.
The entire team, we really appreciate.
Do you see anything? And good luck to all the employers out there. Let
Adriana, thank you. Dale, thank you. Tommy, Elsa, Kelly, the entire team, we really appreciate to hear from a number of good friends that I have in El Paso. Natalie, I heard her name, Cindy.
All the employers out there, let
her name, Cindy.
All the employers out there, let.
And so we're looking forward to getting back out in that community. And Bob Wingo, Paul Foster, just a list of good folks there in that community. And Kelly, the entire team, we really appreciate.
Do you see anything on .gov?
All of the responses through the email, but also on our. Thank you all very much for.
Just a list of good folks there.
This region appreciates the time that you took to. Yeah, the Borderplex region appreciates the time that you took to.
El Paso, and so we're looking forward to getting back out in that community. And Kelly, the entire team, we really feel good to hear from a number of good friends that I have in El Paso.
So at this point.